We brought back our most iconic drop ever, and this is how we did it. So about 4 years ago, we released these flannels, and it was easily our most popular drop we've ever done. It was simple, clean, iconic, and they were all on thrifted vintage flannels. We would constantly have people asking when we would bring them back, and we kind of sat on it a while. We didn't want to bring it back immediately. And about a year ago, I knew I wanted to bring it back, but I knew I didn't want to do it exactly the same. I didn't want to do a straight reprint. I wanted to do it in a new, fresh way that kind of fit our style. 4 years ago, the art direction and style of New Union was way different than what it is now, and we knew the new version needed to reflect that. The original is very simple, clean, and bold, and we loved that, but we knew we wanted to just kind of grunge it up a bit and have it be just more organic and free-flowing. And so we really just got started with the same zip codes, just a bunch of different hand-drawn styles, kind of taking a font and then kind of drawing it and liquefying it, connecting it more and more and more and more. I liked that, but it was still almost too formed. I wanted it to be a bit more like chaotic and unique. I even kind of tried jittering the numbers and kind of sporadically scattering them out. And I didn't hate that, but I knew it wasn't quite there. The final direction we decided for the back design was more of a gritty kind of graffiti style. So you can kind of see each number, if it occurs more than once, it never occurs the same. So it just has weird, funky shapes each time. It's super organic and all hand drawn, but still at the same time has a structure and it's not chaotic. And it's all kind of connected and flows together. And we knew we wanted the outline to kind of show off the design of each flannels more. For the front design, the original one was a circle embroidered on that said hometown. And we knew we wanted to deviate a bit from that because it doesn't necessarily apply to everyone. Some people have moved here and they would ask, like, can I technically still buy this? Because it's not my hometown, I just moved here, but they still wanted to rep Battle Creek. So we knew we wanted to go a bit more generic. We knew we wanted to add a second patch. And you can actually see in these mock-ups kind of the different variations we almost were looking at. We even thought about putting one on the sleeve. And when we finally, we printed it, cut those designs out and mocked them up on a flannel, it just didn't quite fit right. I kind of scrapped the skyline design. It was almost too simple. I wanted to have a bit more to it. So I went back to the drawing board and started on some kind of unique typography. I wanted it to feel kind of serif-y and structured at the same time. So it's not sporadic, it's not overly grungy, but it's still organic at the same time. Kind of similar to the back, still has some structure to it, but it's organic. It has some unique shapes and movement to it, but it's still, everything's connected, and so it flows in that way as well. And you can see in this time lapse all the different just adjustments and tweaking that it took to get this typography just right, especially the L and the E. We knew we didn't want it to be we didn't want to shrink the E. We wanted everything to be super tall, and it was a little tricky figuring out how to do that without leaving a weird gap between the L and the E. So that took a lot of tweaking to figure that one out. And then the smaller patch at the bottom, we knew we wanted a patch kind of almost if you buy a Russell athletic tee, it's got that square patch on the corner, or almost like a brand patch. We knew we wanted something like that, and we had made this design, and it's just a super simple, it's got the Kellogg Foundation and then the Milton, and then a hot air balloon. So just kind of some icons, super simple shapes and typography that would just go well, super small, since it would be about 1.5 inch patch. And for these patches, we knew we didn't want to embroider on them. We knew we wanted separate patches that we would eventually sew on them, but I didn't want them to be super big or bulky. So that's why we went for the woven patches. They're flat. They don't have too much of a texture, which is kind of what I wanted. Normal embroidery can be kind of too shiny, almost too messy and sporadic. So I knew I wanted something a little more understated. It's more flat, it's not as shiny, and it just kind of lays well. It's not as bulky on the flannel either. We love thrifting, so every time we went, we would browse through the flannels and just slowly collected them throughout the year. There's some really cool, unique ones hidden in this drop, and it's always fun to just see them go home with people. It's almost like a favorite child. For the print on the back, we still would have issue with screen printing, and I knew if I tried, I was going to ruin so many of the flannels just with misprints. And I didn't want to just ruin an awesome flannel by misprinting it. So what we actually ended up doing is using a company to make screen printed transfers. So what this is they actually physically screen print art design onto a film, add a powder, and then ship it to us. When we got it, we take our heat press and press it on, and it perfectly embeds to the flannels. And I think we almost had like a 95% success rate, you know, just one or two misprints. Whereas if they were, you know, screen printed by me, I'm not confident that they would have been over 50%. And it still has that feel of screen printing and doesn't feel like vinyl because it is actually screen printed. It's just not directly onto the flannel. And we did a lot of wash tests to make sure this was like a viable option for us. And we are in love with how everything turned out. And we actually still have a couple, so if you want some, grab some on our website right now.